We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Tuesday when you're listening to this, but as I'm recording it on Monday night, and this is a Substack Live. Always enjoy the Substack Lives. Get a lot of folks coming through. We talk about a lot of stuff, and it's always interesting. And it's kind of nice because I get to do it by myself once in a while. It's tough to do it when I'm just looking at a screen and talking. Now that I have other folks out there, you play a very important role. You're out there asking questions, making comments. You make the whole thing more interesting. So I truly appreciate the people that come into the room here, as it were, and we just talk about some shit that needs to be talked about. And people have said that to me. They said, "Well, you just keep talking about this stuff. Uh, what are you going to do about it?" Well, there's only so much any of us can do. One of the things the Republicans have always been successful at is controlling the narrative, talking about what they want to talk about. Whether it's true or not, it doesn't really fucking matter to them. So if we can control the narrative by continuing to talk about things, especially when there's so much to talk about, that's a way we can win. And, if you look at what's going on today, we are winning. We are winning. The tide is turning. The conversation has changed. Many of the people that supported Donald Trump, no matter what, even they are looking a little sideways at this point because it's hard to debate some of the things going on with the Epstein files and everything else. And, I wanted to talk about something particular. And again, please make questions and comments. You're very important to this whole process. But if you're watching social media, put it this way, if you watch mainstream media, you may not get the whole story. You might get a flat out lie. So it's very difficult to trust mainstream media. At the same time, on independent media, like here on Substack or YouTube or TikTok or whatever, you can't always trust everything you get here either. That's not always possible because there are people out here, just like in the mainstream media, that first and foremost, they're looking for clickbait, they're looking for views, they're looking to make money. So you can't always trust what they're telling you. And there's some things going on around the social media that I questioned when I heard them, so I didn't talk about them. And now as I find out later, I was right. If it sounds too good or too juicy, it's probably not true. First one is there's a lot of people on social media going around saying, "Oh my God, France and Germany just uh, released the entire Epstein's files unredacted. Got to go read it. It proves this, it proves that." They say France and Germany released all the files. That's not true. It's not true at all. I don't know where they got that from. One guy just said it because it sounded cool, and then a bunch of people jumped on board because they liked what they heard, and they didn't bother to check it out. Now, that said, I don't want to disappoint you with the fact that European countries do have the files, because we know they do. There are people being fired, there are people resigning, there are prosecutions being started. It's becoming quite a mess over in Europe with regards to these Epstein files. Now, while they haven't released all the files and all hell is breaking loose like some people on social media would like you to believe, we will get information out of that. In fact, we may get a lot of information out of that when it's all said and done. I'm not sure when or how, but we've got people in Europe that aren't too happy with Donald Trump. And if they get an opportunity to blow Donald Trump up, they're going to do it. So that story is not true, although they do have information. They just haven't released the full unredacted files. There's another story, and it's kind of a half-truth. There's a story, and you see it in memes all the time, that says, in the files, there are financial facts that were released that show Donald Trump wired money to Epstein over 4,000 times to the tune of $1.1 billion. Now, those wires actually happened, but it wasn't just Donald Trump. There was a representative from Oregon, I believe, Wyden is his name, and he reported on some financial issues with regards to the Epstein files long, long ago. And there were 4,700 and some wire transfers between a variety of people, and they didn't identify who those people were, uh, and Jeffrey Epstein. And it was to the tune of $1 billion. Now, what people are saying now on social media is that all of those were Donald Trump. That's not true either, at least as far as we know, and I doubt it would be. The idea that Donald Trump might be amongst those people that wired money or received wires, that's distinctly possible because, as I've said before, I think there's a lot more to this than Donald Trump being a patron of Jeffrey Epstein. They were best buddies. We're talking about $1.1 billion transferring back and forth between um, banks, mostly foreign banks, like Deutsche Bank. And we know Deutsche Bank has been called out and investigated for being a money launderer for Russia. So we know that's in the mix there. But if there's $1.1 billion in this game that Jeffrey Epstein was playing, you know Donald Trump was in there and he wanted to get a taste. He wanted to get his own cut. That's why I think he's more than likely a partner more than a participant, although he was a participant too. And so you'll see the story that Donald Trump transferred $1 billion 4,700 times. Not true again. Those transfers did happen, but they can't all necessarily be attributed to Donald Trump. I don't know if any of them can, because I don't know that we've seen who they came from as yet. So what I'm saying is when you're out there and you're on social media, be careful what you hear and be careful what you repeat. See, what happens is when somebody comes out with one of these stories, like Donald Trump sent $1 billion to Jeffrey Epstein, you think, oh, I could see that. That's cool. That makes Donald Trump look guilty. And you start reporting it as if it's fact. And when you do that, you're doing basically what the Republicans do. Donald Trump or somebody spews some bullshit, some lies, and then they repeat it over and over again. So in that case, we'd be no better than the Republicans at that point. So I want you to be careful of that stuff. Now, that said, the financial aspects of what's going on with Jeffrey Epstein, yeah, that's going to play a part too. And as I said, this Rep Wyden in Oregon has got a lot of information about it. And as more and more of this stuff leaks out, we'll see more and more of this. I know people are anxious for Donald Trump to get taken down because of this stuff. Now, it was interesting earlier today, the DOJ said, we're done releasing files. We did our job. Everything else we don't have to release legally because of whatever, which isn't true. In the law that was passed, they're required to release all the Epstein files. There were no caveats to it other than you must redact the survivors / victims, which they didn't do, which they broke the law in that case. A lot of people are worried that they're going to be successful in covering up for Donald Trump and he'll never get caught and he'll never get exposed or held accountable for this. The fact of the matter is if you look at these files, there's enough in these files to shut him down. I mean, there's a legitimate case, and this is a case we heard about prior to the 2016 election. But there's a case where Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were co-defendants in a lawsuit regarding the rape of a 14-year-old girl. That's real. I've seen the documents, and that's in the files. The thing about the files is the question isn't why nobody's been held accountable or nobody's been convicted. We know why they haven't been convicted, because nobody's investigated it, nobody's prosecuted it, so how could they be held accountable? And that's the real question about these Epstein files. Why in the fuck are there no investigations? We know there's anywhere from 20 to 30 co-conspirators possibly, and, um, and they have not necessarily all been released as far as their information, and, they certainly haven't been prosecuted, and hopefully we can push for more of that. We're seeing it in Europe. Trevor Lee says, "I heard that the pilot of Epstein has been arrested." Have not heard that. So, Trevor, I'll look into it. But again, be careful of what you hear. There are goofballs out here on social media, um, and you can't trust everything you hear. And see, the thing about it is we've got to be careful about what we report because credibility is important. The Republicans don't have credibility. And if we as Democrats or liberals or whatever you want to call us start reporting lies, then they can say, see, they're just making this shit up. Trevor Lee says Trump's new Fed chair is listed in the Epstein files. That's correct. Name is Worf. He's going to be made Fed chair. At least he's going to be nominated by Donald Trump. Whether the board will actually approve him, I'm not sure. But he is in the Epstein files. But who amongst Donald Trump's circle of buddies is not in the Epstein files? Looks like there's 13, 14, 15 people within the current cabinet that have been part of the Epstein files. Of course, Howard Lutnick, or as I like to call him, Howard Nutlick, he's not only in the files, he lied to Congress about his connection with Jeffrey Epstein. That fucker should be out on his ass, but because Donald Trump is president, it won't happen. Spacer says these files could blow the whole current world order right open. That's true. But that's another thing I want to mention too. Some people have been quoting Pam Bondi as saying that if we prosecute everybody, it'll bring the entire system down. She never said that. Now, whether that's a possibility, yeah. I mean, we've got very powerful people involved in these Epstein cases and very wealthy people. It would do some serious damage. But when they tell you Pam Bondi said that, she didn't say those words. She did say that the Dow is up over 50,000, so that's fucking impressive. All right. Have mass shootings become so common down in the United States that independent media have to cover them to tell the news? Heard it was a shooting at a hockey practice. Yeah, I heard something about that. Have they become that common where they're yesterday's news? Yeah. Sad as that may seem, that is absolutely true. They have become very common. I mean, they've been common for years now, certainly since Donald Trump's been around. I mean, we have more mass shootings than we have days in a year. It's the ones that are really huge are the ones that get the news stories, but a lot of them people don't bother with it. It's very fucking sad. Spacer says Trump sending J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio to Hungary to support Orban in an election he'll lose. They should be more worried about their own position with how MAGA is crumbling. Yeah, I thought it was America first. So why are we over there helping Orban? Because that's one of Donald Trump's buddies, and Donald Trump, I guess, feels like Orban supports him, so he's going to do whatever he can to help him, whether or not it's America first or not. General thoughts on the administration using heavy economic force on Cuba, military force pending. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. You wonder if it doesn't go back to the old gangster days. You remember back in the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, prior to the Fidel Castro coming in? Cuba was basically run by the mafia with gambling and all that sort of stuff. And then when Fidel Castro came in, they were all kicked out. You have to wonder if Donald Trump isn't trying to bring back the, good old days in Cuba. Leslie says, "What do you think about Trump today saying he has been exonerated from the Epstein case?" Yeah, he's been saying that for a while, exonerated. But this is what Donald Trump does. He lies and lies and lies until hopefully somebody believes him. But anybody who's read the files, even a little bit, no, that's absolutely ridiculous. And he can say it all he wants, and all it does is affect his integrity. He he's clearly involved. And he's flailing at this point. He's panicking. So all he can say is he can't discount what's being reported. So he's just got to say, "I'm completely exonerated," assuming that people haven't read it or heard about it. So, yeah, I'm not surprised he's doing it. He'll probably do it more before it's all over. He'll probably do it to the day he leaves office in shame. See, that's the thing about narcissists. They will never admit they're wrong. They will never admit they lost. I mean, look at how Donald Trump is fighting so hard about the 2020 election. It's old fucking news, but he's still got to prove that he actually won, which he can't and which he won't. And the same with regards to being exonerated with the Epstein files. He wasn't. He will never be. The only thing that's going to happen to him is that it's going to get worse for him, and it's going to get harder. Um, it's going to be harder for him to explain it away. Michael Catlett says, "Do you use Ground News to do your fact checking?" Not much. I know Ground News is good. I need when I'm looking at stories, I need the story, okay, and then search out the story to find out what the true facts are. And sometimes I come across Ground News, and sometimes I come across other news sources that I trust that give me the information. Believe it or not, I don't listen to podcasts. I mean, I love podcasts because I do a podcast, but I don't listen to them because I can't take that much time. I'm constantly looking for stories, and when there's a story that I think is important or catches my interest, then I dig deep into that one as quickly as I can so that I can form some kind of intelligent opinion of it. So I understand what it's about, and then I just kind of give my take on it. I know what Ground News is. I know it's good. I have read it. I don't read it on a regular basis, but I don't really read anything on a regular basis. Jose says, "Helping another dictator." Absolutely. I think he looks up to Orban too as a strong man. He looks at what he gets away with in his country, and he wishes he could get away with that in this country. Rubio wants to do a bailout for Hungary to help Orban, similar to how they helped Milei in Argentina. Well, that's exactly right. They want to impact other people's politics by, giving them a leg up or whatever, and it doesn't work typically. But Donald Trump is always trying to game the system. No matter what he's doing, he's always trying to game the system. Um, Again, I'll just go back to America first. We do that by giving money to Hungary or to Argentina. It doesn't sound like America first to me. Hegseth still bombing boats. Is that true, Vincent? Because I haven't heard many stories about boats being bombed. But that, it wouldn't surprise me in the least. I found it funny. They were bombing boats until they went in and got Maduro out of Argentina or out of Venezuela. And then they stopped bombing boats. But if they're starting back up again, it wouldn't surprise me. They need to do something to distract attention from the real shit. Republicans are desperate to push the SAVE Act down our throats. I saw a person on social media say if people are too lazy to go out and get a passport, they don't deserve to pick our leaders. Laugh so hard. It's the funniest thing about this SAVE Act. First of all, it's not going to pass the Senate. Just not going to pass the Senate. The SAVE Act, I think, wants us to have our original birth certificate, which I don't know that anybody has. I mean, you can go down to the county or the state office and they'll print you out a copy of your, birth certificate, which is certified and should work. I don't know if it will with the SAVE Act. Or the other thing is a passport. Now I have a passport. I didn't have a passport till I was like 50 years old. A lot of people don't have passports. It's kind of expensive and it takes a while to do, and people don't usually put in the time to do it. But here's the interesting thing. If passports are going to be the thing that help people, allow people to vote, you know who has the fewest passports per capita among the states? It's mostly red states. So they want to pull this off. They want to pull off the SAVE Act. Fact of the matter is, it's going to fuck them up more than anybody else. So it's not going to pass the Senate. But even if it does, of course, they'll do what they always do and step in their own dick and lose anyway. And I think some people in the Senate are finally starting to realize that, hey, this could fuck us over too. Maybe we don't want to do that. The SAVE Act is interesting. It's noise. I don't think it's going to happen. I think we've got plenty of other plenty of other things to worry about at this point. I mean, this is what Republicans do. They constantly come up with bullshit, crazy shit, just to distract your attention from something else that they're fucking up. Something else I want to mention too. Brent says hello. Hello, Brent. Thank you for joining us. Um, I'm in Minnesota, as you know. I'm in a suburb of Minneapolis, but I grew up in South Minneapolis, right around where the problems we had with ICE, where they're murdering innocent people on the streets and kidnapping children. Um, Tom Homan came out. Timu fled Fred Flintstone, as far as I'm concerned. Um, and he said that they were going to do a drawdown in Minnesota, meaning they'd pull everybody out of Minnesota and leave maybe 100 agents. There's always ICE agents in every town, always has been. But 3,000 is a little bit of overkill. But he said he was drawing them down. He said it was going to happen late last week into early this week. Well, as we're sitting here now, we're Monday into Tuesday, and I can tell you this for a fact, based on people I've talked to and what I've seen. There has been no drawdown at this point, certainly none of any significant consequence. Somebody I saw online was standing outside the Whipple building, which is the federal building where all the ICE agents go. Um, and they said this morning, Monday morning, they saw maybe 100 cars leave the Whipple building with ICE agents in them. So don't let them fool you. Don't let them fool you that they are drawing down. They aren't. I don't know what the purpose would be to say they're drawing down and then not drawing down. And maybe they will. Maybe they're just slow at it. We know they're fuck ups. So, yeah, who knows? But if anybody tells you, oh, things have calmed down in Minnesota, not the case. Just not the case at all. Um, At the national address thing, he is going to about getting Greenland again, no doubt about it. Oh, yeah, he'll probably bring up Greenland. He got put in his place by Europe when he did it last time, but he either doesn't remember or doesn't care or is just too stupid to understand the ramifications of doing something like that. But Europe can do some pretty heavy damage to us. They can sell the treasury bonds and basically break the country. They can cut off all trade with America, which will destroy the country. And they can shut down all the military installments in European countries. Donald Trump wants to fuck around. Well, he'll find out if he does something like that. Just fucking noise with Donald Trump. He makes a lot of noise and he doesn't get a lot accomplished. What do you think of AOC at the Munich conference? She is definitely trying to raise her viability in politics and has maybe hinted at a higher office. She's building a globe coalition semi-partnership to fight these far-right Trumplafucks. Well, the idea that AOC might try to build her platform, raise awareness about her, and maybe seek running for the presidency? Yeah, that's distinctly possible. I don't know if this country is ready for a brown woman yet. I mean, I'd be fine with AOC as president of the United States. I think she'd do a fine job, certainly better than what we're dealing with now. But what we saw in 2024 is we had a very viable candidate in Kamala Harris. Now, there's a lot of factors involved with this situation. She had short notice, but it was clear in that election that for whatever reason, there are Democrats that can't find themselves to vote for a brown woman. And this next presidential election is so crucial. We need to do whatever it takes to win that one. Even if it's not the absolute best candidate, we need to get control against the Republicans, and once we do that, we can start working out the kinks and try to get a better position. That's why I tell people, if you're gonna vote Democrat, but it's not your favorite person or is not progressive enough, doesn't matter. Vote for them anyway. We gotta get the power out of the hands of the Republicans, and once the Democrats are in control, then we can start working on the Democrats, because trust me, I sit here and rip the Republicans and Donald Trump every day, have for 5 years. But when the Democrats take over, there is some cleanup we need to do with the Democratic Party as well, and I'll be doing that. There's plenty of Democrats that need to be called out: Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, and some others. So vote against the Republicans, anybody blue, and then we'll work out the details after that. That's the only way it's gonna get done. Because if you vote the Republicans in or a Republican president, I don't if we don't win the midterms and we don't elect a Democratic president in 2028, I don't know what's the point of even doing this for me. Um, I'm getting old. We need some progress. We need a fix right now. Um Jose says there's still a naval presence in the Caribbean. Last week, there was 2 naval ships that collided with one another, destroyer and a supply ship. Were those American ships that collided, or were they foreign ships? Yeah, there's a lot of chaos going on out there, and it's largely due to Donald Trump's incompetence. Um, if Donald Trump needs a distraction, he'll do anything. He'll bomb more ships. He'll do whatever the fuck. Vincent says, I wonder how many drugs are getting into the United States. Probably no less than there were when Donald Trump wasn't president. All right, you guys are making some inside jokes. I'm reading a lot of stuff, so I'm not able to follow along with all the inside jokes. So we had Monday, which was a holiday and President's Day, and Donald Trump was out there trying to make himself important and praise himself. I think what people have to understand, this President's Day wasn't ultimately, initially, um, a day for all presidents. Back when I was young, there were 2 President Days. There was Washington's birthday and Lincoln's birthday, and they thought, "Hey, why don't we just put the 2 birthdays together and, celebrate them on one day," which made sense. So this President's Day is more about Lincoln and Washington than it is about anybody else, certainly not Donald Trump. Donald Trump doesn't need any fucking celebrating at this point. Get a win once in a while, and then maybe we can talk about you, being celebrated. The only way Donald Trump is going to be celebrated is the day he dies, and then it's gonna be like Mardi Gras around the world. If you think the Republicans were upset about people's lack of sympathy for Charlie Kirk, wait till Donald Trump buys a fucking farm. People are going to be jacked up and partying. We're gonna be playing the song by Kool and the Gang, "Celebrate Good Times," 'cause, it's not just people in the United States that are going to be, happy about this. We're gonna see people around the country, around the world celebrating this stuff, and that's why I say when when they're doing the investigations into the Epstein files in France and Poland and the UK and such, um, they're not going to worry about releasing material that might be damaging to Donald Trump. In fact, the way they feel about Donald Trump at this point, they might be specifically looking for it. And I'm a firm believer, even if the DOJ doesn't release any more Epstein files, as far as I'm concerned, there's enough in the current Epstein files to show that Donald Trump is certainly a person of interest and certainly worth investigating, as well as all the other names that are in it. Um, but there's likely going to be leaks of some sort. People are going to leak information out. They're going to get frustrated. Maybe some of these survivors, something's going to happen. They're not going to be allowed to get away with it. I mean, the fucking cows are out of the barn. People are upset about this, and the information is going to come out. Vincent says Trump sending 2 carrier strike groups towards Iran. Well, that's the other thing. Is he going to attack Iran? I don't know why we would believe anything less than he would. I mean, he's done this before. He bombed Iran before. I don't know what he hopes to accomplish. I mean, he always said America first and no new wars. This motherfucker has put us in more conflicts than anybody in recent history. Spacer says, I may or may not be misunderstanding this, but at the Munich conference, Hillary also spoke, and she says that immigration is an issue in the U.S. in terms that we have too much immigration. I don't know that she said that. I know that she spoke out against Donald Trump. She got a little pushback, and then she fired back. Here's what you have to understand about Hillary Clinton. She's very smart. She's smarter than Bill Clinton with no question. She's going to have to testify in front of the House Oversight Committee, and why they decided to do this makes no fucking sense, other than to try to distract away from Donald Trump. But Hillary Clinton, I don't know what's going to happen with Bill. Bill's kind of doddering at this point. He's kind of feeble. Hillary Clinton is not. She's sharp as ever, and she's taken these people to task before. And when she sits down, I'll guarantee you, Donald Trump's name is going to come out of her mouth more than you can fucking possibly imagine. She's pissed that they're making her do this, and if they're going to do it, they're going to fuck around and find out, because they're going to get exactly the opposite of what they hope they're going to get. Trevor Lee says, when the big beautiful obituary comes out, endless partying. Yeah, it'll be crazy. And I can't wait for the Republicans to be so upset. How dare you? A man died. He was president of the United States. Fuck him. I hope he fucking chokes to death tonight. Honestly, I do. Trevor says Hillary is going to cook Trump. Yeah, she is. I mean, you can see it when she talks now. She's not a fan of Donald Trump. She hates what he's doing. And if she has the capability to take him down, she will. And if anybody, we always talk about the Democratic Party and how they're weak and they don't fight back. Well, that's not the case with Hillary Clinton. We need more leaders like Hillary Clinton, whether you like her or not. She's tough, she's a fighter, and she'll go after people. And when she sits down in front of these members of the House Oversight Committee, she's going to go after these motherfuckers. She's smarter than all of them. This is going to be another bad choice for Republicans bringing her in. Vincent says, if the United States doesn't want refugees entering the U.S., then they will have to stop toppling foreign governments and causing chaos. Yeah. And for the life of me, I don't understand the whole concern or fear about letting immigrants in. We've always let immigrants in. Immigrants have been the backbone of this country. The slaves were immigrants. People picking produce and doing the jobs that Americans don't want to do or can't do. They have been the backbone of this country. And the fact that you're a little afraid of them because they happen to be brown shows what kind of fucking human being you are. Spacer says, nevertheless, why does it seem like Democratic leadership is also getting worse? But what we saw in New Jersey, we have hope that the tide is changing, a progressive election. AIPAC stepped on their own toes with that one. Yeah. You know, it's funny about Israel. Israel's always got this pass and all this positive adulation. I think now people are seeing what's happened with the Gaza Strip, the genocide, if you will. They're finding out that we're sending them tens of billions of dollars every year, and nobody can tell us why we're sending it to them. People know that they have free health care and free education, and we're sending them money, but we don't have either. Yeah, people are getting a little pissed off about it. They're not happy about what's going on and how it's affecting this country. And again, it goes back to what Donald Trump said, America first, but everything he does here is quite the opposite of America first. So, yeah, Israel's in kind of a weird spot. And, you know, anytime you say something negative about Israel, somebody's going to come out and say you're anti Semitic, or these religious folks who got to protect Israel at all costs. Well, let me explain something to you. Israel of the Bible is far different than Israel that was created in 1948. There is nothing wrong with Israel or the people in Israel. The problem is with the leadership, with Benjamin Netanyahu. He's a demagogue. He's a dictator. He's a cruel motherfucker. He's all about genocide. So I can hate Benjamin Netanyahu and the government of Israel, but not the people of Israel or the country of Israel. It's not about anti-Semitics. It's about right and wrong. It's about good and evil. It's about truth and lies, justice and injustice. And Benjamin Netanyahu is a bad guy, and he's putting his country through the paces and killing a lot of innocent people. Now, I know from whence I speak, because it just so happens we are in the same situation as Israel. People as a whole, the majority of people in this country are good people. They want to live their lives. They want to keep their families safe and fed, and they want everybody to get along. That's what people in America want. But the perception of America is much different. And why? Because of our leadership. Donald Trump. This motherfucker is egregious. He's dystopian. He's going out and causing a mess everywhere he goes. So much like we feel about Israel, there are a lot of people that feel the same way about the United States, and in both cases, justifiably so. But that doesn't make the people of America or the people of Israel bad people. It just means we were dumb enough to elect people into a position that puts us in this position where we're we're coming off bad. We're doing horrible things. Now they're talking about bombing Iran. What the fuck for? Don't we have enough problems here? You know, I keep hearing about, Donald Trump keeps talking about how his poll numbers are great and all that stuff. They keep dropping. His overall approval rating is, 36%? That's horrible. That's the worst it's ever been. And there's one real telling fact that's going to be particularly harmful to the Republican Party, and that is independents. Independents, for the most part, decide most elections. It's almost a 50-50 split between Democrats and Republicans during every election. Now, there's more Democrats voting, but it always seems to be 50-50. The pivot point or the difference is the independent party. Now, in the 2024 election, Donald Trump did pretty well with the independent party. Recently, I heard his approval rating amongst independents is about 29%. Then I heard something today that it's down to 19%. When you control and have approval of only 19% of the independents, You can't win a fucking election. If we had the election today, it wouldn't even be close. That's assuming Elon or somebody wasn't fucking with the election. But Donald Trump is losing support every day, and don't you think he doesn't know that? He would never admit it because, as I told you, narcissists will never admit they're wrong or that they're losing. But his support is draining fast. And I would have to think that the Republicans at this point are looking at this, knowing that they're going to have to do something. At some point, if he doesn't do it to himself or the Democrats don't do it when they get power, the Republicans are going to have to find a way to get rid of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is no longer an asset. Donald Trump is a liability, a big fucking liability. And the Republicans know it. They're still fearful of Donald Trump, but eventually that will wane too. We're already seeing a lot of Republicans in Congress stepping away. We get more and more people deciding to resign. Um, and we could be put in a position where Republicans no longer have the majority in the House even before the midterms, because I suspect we'll see more and more people leaving Congress. And a lot of them are choosing to leave early as opposed to waiting for their election and not running for reelection. And that's a telling sign, too, because when they do that, the reason they're doing it, they're upset, they're angry with the Republicans, and they want to kind of stick it to them. And there's a lot of those folks out there that want to do that. All right, could Trump be hoping to just do the SAVE Act through executive order so it could be implemented in red and swing states and hopefully get stalled in litigation? It would be a typical Trump to delay. It's a stupid idea, but I see him doing that. Um, that may be what he's thinking. But where Donald Trump is failing here is that the federal government would have to have some control over elections, and they don't. Elections are run by the state. He can make an executive order. Nobody has to follow through with it. Now, if the red states want to follow through with it and the blue states want to ignore it, cool. That's just going to help the Democrats. Trevor Lee says executive orders are not laws. You're absolutely right about that. And that's what people have to understand. Once a new president comes in, presumably a Democrat, once they come in, they can cancel every one of Donald Trump's executive orders, just like he did with some of Biden's executive orders. It's not law. It's kind of a quick patch, but it's not meant to be permanent. In fact, I think most of these executive orders have like a 6-month shelf life. It's great for making a lot of noise and freaking people out, but it's not the law. It never was the law, never will be the law. And the idea that he might be able to do some kind of executive order to push the SAVE Act through, that's a fucking pipe dream. You know, he said that. He said, I don't care if Congress agrees with it or not, which we know means that he knows the Senate isn't going to pass it. So he says, well, if Congress doesn't pass it, I'll just do it anyway. Really? How are you going to do that? How are you going to make states that are in power over their elections, how are you going to make them do that? Now, you might make red states do it. And if you want to do that, that's fucking fine with me. That'll just lose you voters. So go ahead, do it. But you're not going to take a state like Minnesota or California or New York or any of their blue states and say, you got to do this because Donald Trump said so. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to work. Spacer says, unless some Republican governors are stupid enough to go along with it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And there probably are some Republican governors that would go along with it. Um, and he can go to court, but that's not going to stop the election. I think a lot of people are under the impression that Donald Trump has the power to stop elections, and he does not. We have had elections through the Civil War, through 9/11, through all these things. So the idea that he can somehow cause us to not have elections is ridiculous. You get a lot of people out here saying that, but they're just doing it out of fear. And here's what I want you to understand. There's a lot of fear with people throughout the country about things Donald Trump is doing. Donald Trump is a bully. Donald Trump goal is to instill fear into people. So if you become fearful and you fall into that trap, then you've given him the win. So stop with the negative energy. Stop with believing what Donald Trump says. He's a pathological liar and he's a fuck up. Just look at all the things he's done. He always fucks up. Do you think Democrats and Republicans can hold hands together with each other after a tragedy like how we Canadians did with Tumbler Ridge with the party leaders? Yeah, I sense you'll probably see something like that because, the Republicans, after this is all said and done, they are going to have to try to rehabilitate themselves. They've created a perception that they're a bunch of crazy motherfuckers that don't care about anything and that are trying to destroy this country. That's the perception people have. Now, in order for them to rehabilitate themselves, they're going to have to get rid of Donald Trump and calm things down a bit. That's why when people say they're worried about JD Vance, I'm not at all worried about JD Vance. I'm not saying he's not a fuck up and that he's not horrible. But when Donald Trump's gone, the Republicans are going to do everything they can to calm things down, to be more in line with what Republicans maybe once were. They'll never get back to that, but they'll try. JD Vance is very easily manipulated. He's a pussy. He'll do whatever he's told to do, even if he is president of the United States. So if Donald Trump is gone, JD Vance is the president. Expect the Republican Party to calm down a little bit because they're going to try to rehabilitate themselves in hopes that, maybe in 2028 they might get a vote or two. They probably won't. Trevor Lee says, I've had to stand up to bullies and put them in their spots. Yeah, that's what you got to do with bullies. If you're afraid or back down, they win. If you slap the taste out of their mouth, kick them in the nuts, and put them on their back and make sure they stay there, then you win. You've noticed that every time anybody's pushed back against Donald Trump, what does he do? He fucking retreats. So we should take a lesson from that and continue to do that with Donald Trump. But, Democrats have their issues with that. Spacer says, I think what would be the most likely case, establishment Dems fill the conservative vacuum when MAGA becomes irrelevant. Progressives and the rational folk will be the liberals. That sounds crazy, but it makes some sense. I mean, they've gone so far right, it's crazy, and it's going to fail miserably, so nobody will want to be there. So you'll get the centrists, maybe on the liberal side and on the Republican side, kind of creating a group that is largely what they will call Republicans at that point. And the progressives will be more of the Democrats or the leftists. And the thing is, at this point, with what we've gone through with Donald Trump, the evangelicals, Project 2025, we've swung so far right that we almost have to crank it to the left very far just to get things even on keel. Vincent, general thoughts on those plans for wellness camps and marriage camps they are planning? Uh, they're not going to happen. People aren't going to tolerate that. Donald Trump is losing power every day. The Republicans are losing grip every day. They can say what they want, but I don't believe they're going to happen. They got too much of a mess to deal with at this point, and it's going to be impossible for them to continue to try to implement these things as they continue to lose power. Now, they would love that, wellness camps and marriage camps. Who's going to run that? RFK Jr.? I mean, after he gets done snorting cocaine off a toilet seat. The one thing you gotta notice about Donald Trump, he has a lot of ideas. The Republicans wanna implement a lot of things, but how often are they successful at it? And people will say to me, "Well, they bombed Venezuela, he's got tariffs and stuff." What Donald Trump did in his term this time around, he's proven that we have a lot of holes in our government, in our judicial system, holes that we didn't think were there. We had all the guardrails, the guidelines, and all the norms that nobody would ever step over. And they didn't step over them because they figured, "Oh, man, the accountability will be horrible." So Donald Trump gets to be president. He walks over every guardrail, every norm, every law. We don't have rule of law anymore, and nothing happens. What he's basically done is exposed this country for being a weaker place than we thought it was. Congress is weak. Um, and Congress can't be trusted to do the right things for us. Our judicial system, I gotta tell you, it's one thing you go to court, you lose a court case, you appeal, you appeal, you appeal, and it all goes on for 6 months to 2 years. That's not a judicial system that's serving this country. We're dealing with criminals like Donald Trump that know how to play the system to their advantage, and they do it. So we've gotta shore some things up so that, um, these loopholes are no longer there. Trump talking about military 401k doing well. I thought the military only having a pension. Donald Trump doesn't know what he's fucking talking about. Just you have to understand that when he says something, it doesn't come from any place realistic. Um, the stock market has been up. It's funny when Pam Bondi said the other day, "Oh my God, we broke a record. The Dow's up over 50,000 points. 50,000 points. It's a record." Here's the thing with the Dow. It breaks records every year as long as it's heading upward. When Donald Trump left office in his first term, the Dow was at like 29, 30%, something like that, or 29 to 30,000 points. When Joe Biden left office, um, the Dow was at 4,400 or 44,000. So Donald Trump's up over 50, sometimes under 50. He's only increased it during his term as president of the United States by 5 or 6 points. It's not like he's blown the roof off the place. It's improving, but it's been improving ever since Obama took over. Well, it didn't so much when Donald Trump was in, but once Biden got back in, it was a steady climb. So they say in his 4 years, it went from 2,900 or 29,000, whatever it is, to 44. That's a pretty significant jump. Donald Trump, we're at maybe 4 or 5, and he wants to make it out because it's a record that he's doing something crazy. If the fucker sat there with his thumb in his ass, it would go up. The fact that it hasn't gone down is a little surprising. But what you have to understand here is that one of the reasons it's not going down is because of a number that we heard last month. Last month, there were more layoffs in this country than since 2009 coming out of through the Great Recession. So what happens is these companies are losing money, so they fire people, and then it builds up their profits, right? But they can only fire so many people. It's a last-ditch effort to keep everything moving, and hopefully things get better. So the stock market does all right as long as they can fire people, but that will come to an end probably by now. And when there isn't a fail-safe or a last-ditch effort for them to keep profits up, that's when things start to sink. So I suspect in the next 3 to 6 months, you're going to see a different situation with the stock market, just inevitably. Spacer says they've been having polls saying that people in this country say that Biden performed better as president than Trump. All I would say to them is, thank you, Captain Obvious. Of course he's done better. I mean, the fact that Donald Trump comes out every day and says, "Oh no, I was handed a mess and I made everything so great." That's just a flat out lie. When Joe Biden was in office, the stock market was going up, unemployment was coming down, um, inflation was coming down, the GDP was going up. Things were actually running pretty smoothly with Joe Biden. As much as the Republicans want to say that it was bad, I would challenge them to show me where it was bad. Now, the one place we do have problems in this country with Joe Biden and now with Donald Trump, stock market can go crazy. That can be wonderful. But there are people in the middle class, the young people that are being saddled with heavy debt from school loans, and then they're getting paid shit. So they can't afford to buy houses. They can't afford to pay rent. They can't buy cars. They can't contribute to the economy, which will ultimately hurt the economy. This is the one area that needs to be fixed, whether it be Republicans or Democrats. Make sure these young people that are going to be taking over this country, maybe as quickly as 2028, millennials and Gen Z, you got to make it better for them, or you're going to take a beating in the elections. Spacer says they were able to answer a poll positively. Where were they in 2024? Well, Spacer, here's the fucking problem. The fucking problem is that there are so many people that are so fucking dumb. They need to have a foot up their ass and their hair on fire before they realize they're making bad choices. These are people are dumb. They have no foresight. They needed to get their ass kicked before they realized that they were being conned. It's a sad state of affairs for this country, but that's exactly why. Biden kept saying the economy great, but most people were struggling with cost of living. It didn't add up. Well, you're absolutely right, and part of the reason, and I hold Joe Biden responsible for that too. If you tell me the economy is great because of the stock market and unemployment and all that stuff, but there are still people who are working 3 jobs and still can't make ends meet, there's a serious problem in this country, and that needs to be fixed. The Democrats should have done it. The Republicans should have done it. And whoever's going to be president next and whoever's going to be in Congress, they better be younger people. They better understand the situation, and they better find a way to fix it because they won't have their jobs very long if they don't. They were yelling Sleepy Joe, but I don't hear anyone yelling about Sleepy Don. Yeah, Don's he's fallen asleep standing up. He's slurring ridiculously. I mean, it's bad. It's funny that the media doesn't call him out. And I think it's largely due to the fact that all these corporate media outlets have bent a knee to Donald Trump, either to garner favors or they're afraid he's going to sick the FCC on him. I don't know what the fuck it is, but it's ridiculous. Um, People that vote against their own interest are still shocking to me. Yeah, again, it's the stupidity. They listen to the messaging by the Republicans and they buy it, in spite of the fact these Republicans have always been lying about everything. Give money to the rich and we'll all be great. Well, they've been trying that for 45 years and it hasn't worked yet. When do you give up the ghost and fucking try something else? The politicians have every reason to stick to it because they make money off of it. But how long does it take people in this country to fucking learn a lesson? I don't know. I don't even know how to explain that. Um, where are the people now that were yelling Sleepy Joe now that they should be yelling shut down? I'm not sure what that it says. Asterisk dawn. Not sure what that means. Thank you, media. But you're absolutely right. The media is at fault here for all of this from the beginning. Spacer says, I agree with Will. The cost of living message is winning the people. Establishment Dems and Republicans can't read the room. Ramaswamy keeps saying the cost of living issue is a myth. I'm not really sure what the Republicans think they're trying to accomplish in Ohio by putting Ramaswamy up. Just pathetic. Yeah, absolutely. The idea that Republicans would have a candidate who is brown and is an immigrant, and the Republicans are going to rally around him, I think the fuck not. Vincent says, with the EPA regulations going away, another Palestine, Ohio waiting to happen. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've got so many issues that could end up being tragedies, whether it be the EPA situation and pollution and another 3 Mile Island or whatever the fuck could happen. Not to mention the fact that we don't have any national security. We have the woman that's in charge of the United States intelligence is an asset of Vladimir Putin's. Um, I'm surprised something truly tragic hasn't happened yet. We are in a very vulnerable situation right now. We're not protecting ourselves. We've got incompetent people running this country, and that's a dangerous situation to put us in. I'm just fucking telling you, it's potentially dangerous, and I hope we don't have to wait for some tragedy before people wake the fuck up. All right, I'm going to wrap up this Substack Live and the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank all of you for joining me here. This made things so much easier and certainly more interesting when you participate. So thank you very much for that. Those of you listening to the podcast, thank you for taking the time to do that. I hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.